In this lesson, you will learn how to calculate the surface area of pyramids and cones. The general formula for surface area is lateral area plus base area. The lateral area for a cone and pyramid is a little bit different than the surface area for prisms and cylinders. Also notice for the base area, we only need one base area. We do not see the two here because in our shapes, we only have one of those base figures. So let's look at our examples. Here for our first example, we have a cone. I still start with the surface area equals 1/2 the perimeter times the slant height plus the base area, so for a circle, that's pi r squared. We know that perimeter of a circle is actually called circumference, so I replace that with 2 pi r, keeping our slant height plus pi r squared. This is the formula I prefer to use because it makes sense to me to have the 1/2 just like our triangular and rectangular pyramids formula have. It is acceptable to cancel out the 1/2 times 2 and just use pi rl plus pi r squared. So if you prefer the simplified formula, it will also work. But I'm going to stick with this one because I like seeing that 1/2 just like our other formulas have. So let's find our values to plug in to our formula. We're actually going to first start with our slant height. Notice we do not need the actual height of the cone because we're determining the surface area on the outside. We want the outside height of the cone. So we actually need the slant height here, the value that we actually will need to do some work to calculate. We also are going to need the radius in order to calculate the base area, pi r squared. We'll need that radius from here to the center, from the center of the circle to the edge, that's 6 centimeters. And then we'll need the perimeter, or really the circumference of the circle. So again, using that radius, but it's calculating this outside edge of the circle. Again, using that 6, that's our radius. So let's start plugging in our numbers so we can calculate our surface area. We have 1/2 times 2 times pi. Our radius is 6. We don't know our slant height, so we'll have to come back and figure that out. Plus pi times r squared, so again using the 6 squared. So let's find that slant height that we need in our picture. If you notice that slant height makes a right triangle with the values that you are given. So we can set up and solve using Pythagorean theorem. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals L squared. So go off to the side or down below, and we have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals our slant height squared. Your slant height has to be your hypotenuse because it's across from the 9-degree angle. So let's solve this. 6 squared plus 8 squared gives us 100, equaling L squared. In order to solve, of course, we have to take the square root of both sides. Squaring and square root cancel, leaving us with a slant height of 10, and our units are in centimeters. So that is the value we will place in for our slant height. Now we're ready to calculate our surface area. So 1/2 times 2 times pi times 6 times 10. Of course, checking that you've typed everything in correctly. We're also going to add pi times 6 squared. Because we have typed in so much, it may be good for you to type it in a second time just in case you typed a button in wrong. You'd hate to miss your surface area just because of calculator error. Rounding that to the nearest hundredths, we get 301.59. Our units are in centimeters. Because we're calculating surface area, it is squared centimeters. Let's take a look at example number 2. We have a triangular pyramid. For our triangular pyramid formula, the surface area is going to equal 1/2 times the perimeter times the slant height plus 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 times the perimeter times the slant height plus we only need one of those base areas. We only have one of these triangles. It's not a prism with the parallel sides. It just has one of the triangular base. So that's why it's just 1/2 base times height. We don't see the 2 in front of that with these pyramid and cone formulas. So let's plug in our numbers. Our surface area is equal 1/2. Before we plug in our numbers, let's find our numbers. Let's go back to our picture. Our slant height starts from our point down the side of our triangular pyramid. Because we are finding the area on the outside, we want that outside height. We will not need from the cone straight down the inside height. That is not what you need for the slant height value. You need that outside edge height. For our area formula, we need 1/2 base times height. So the base of this triangle and the height of this triangle, we have 9 centimeters and the 7.8 centimeters. And finally, for the perimeter, we need to add together the 3 sides. So 1 side, 2 sides, and 3 sides of the triangle. So we have the 9 centimeters, that was also our base. We have this 9 centimeters, that's one edge of our triangle. And then notice the third edge is also labeled 9 centimeters. So those are the values we will use for our perimeter. Now let's plug them into our formula. So perimeter is the first thing we need, so we'll add up those. So go off to the side or down below and add your 9 plus 9 plus 9, the 3 sides together. So adding those together, we get 27. We are in centimeters. So the perimeter of that triangle is 27. The slant height, remember, is the outside height, not the inside. If we had a point straight down to the triangle, we do not need that for surface area. That is the height of the triangle, or that is the height of the pyramid, but we now need the slant height when calculating surface area. So we want that outside edge height. So the 11.3 plus 1/2 base and height. Look at your shape that's on the bottom of your pyramid. Base and height is triangular. That shape is triangular, so we need the base and height for that triangle. So 9 times the 7.8. So calculate that surface area. We have 1/2 times 27 times 11.3 plus 1/2 times 9 times 7.8. When we calculate that surface area, we find that that's 187.65. We are in centimeters, so it's squared centimeters since we calculated an area. For our third example, the rectangular pyramid. It does come to a point, so it's a rectangular pyramid. Let's work that out. Here we have the surface area formula for that shape. It's going to be 1/2 times the perimeter times the slant height plus the area formula for that shape, so it's length times width. So let's find our values. First, starting with our slant height. Remember, we want the height from the point down the outside edge, so this 9 inches. If it went from the point straight down to the center of that rectangle, that is the height of the pyramid. We do not need the actual height, we just need the slant height. The slanted side of that pyramid, we need the height of that piece. For our area formula, length times width. Here's the length of the rectangle. Here's the width of a rectangle. 5 inches. So actually, because it is a square, 5 inches will also be our length and width for both dimensions. And then we also will end up needing to calculate our perimeter. When we do perimeter, we add up all 4 sides. So here's 1, 2 sides, 3, 4 sides. They will all be the 5 inches when we add up to find our perimeter. So let's start with that first. We'll need our perimeter for our surface area. So go off to the side or down below. And we'll add together 5 times 5. No, add together 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. You could use multiplication because 5 times 4 would be the same thing. So that gives us 20 inches for our perimeter. So plugging that into our formula, perimeter is 20. We see that our slant height is 9 plus our length and width. Length and width, because we said it's a square, they actually end up being the same thing. 5 times 5. So calculate that surface area. We have 1/2 times 20 times 9 plus 5 times 5. 115. We're in inches. Because we're calculating an area, it's squared inches. Let's look at one final example. Number 4. We're going to talk about an octagonal pyramid. Because it says it's octagonal, that base figure on the bottom of the pyramid is going to have 8 sides. So I'm going to give you some information in order to calculate the surface area of a shape that's an octagonal pyramid. I'm going to tell you that the base area is 816 square yards. I'm going to tell you that the octagon has a side length of 13 yards. And you might want to jot down that it is a regular octagon, which means every side is 13 yards. It is possible to have an octagon, an eight-sided figure could have different lengths, but this is a regular octagon, meaning all sides would have 13 yards as their side length. And then we would also need the slant height. So I'm going to tell you that the slant height of the pyramid is going to be 27 yards. So we can use that information to find the surface area. Let's go to the just general formula. Let's start with surface area. It's going to be lateral area plus the base area. To calculate the lateral area, we need 1/2 times the perimeter times the slant height. Well, we can calculate the perimeter knowing that the sides of the octagon are 13 yards and knowing that an octagon has 8 sides. So we can definitely find the perimeter. The slant height was also given to us, so all of this part of our formula we can calculate. Plus the base area. I don't know the area formula of an octagon. That's one I would actually have to look up myself. We're only going to hold you responsible for circular, triangular, and rectangular formulas, knowing those. So anything beyond that, we will have to calculate and give you the base area base area value, because you're not responsible for knowing the formula. So we can just plug that in for our base area. So let's work this out. Our surface area is going to be 1/2 times the perimeter. So let's go off to the side. The perimeter of that octagon on the bottom is going to be 8 times the 13. You could add up 13 8 times, but multiplication would get to that value faster. So 8 times 13 gives us this perimeter of 104. Our slant height was given to us as 27 plus our base area, because we don't have to know the formula for an octagon. The area of that was already calculated. We get 816. So now we can find the surface area of this pyramid. We have 1/2 times 104 times 27. We're going to add that with the 816. When we calculate that, we get 2,220. Our units are in yards. Because we're finding an area, it is square yards.